November 11th, 2025. 20:30 hours local time. Caribbean Sea. Something unusual moved through the darkness, a formation so large it lit up every radar screen from Puerto Rico to Caracas. The USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, the most powerful naval force afloat, has entered the Caribbean. Deck lights off. Radar emissions low. To outsiders, it looks routine, a counter-narcotics patrol under U.S. Southern Command. But everyone in the region knows better. This isn't about drugs. It's about dominance. This is America's largest naval deployment to Latin America since 1989. The Ford, flanked by destroyers. The USS Thomas Hudner and USS Ramage, with cruiser USS Normandy to the rear, push south of Puerto Rico into 4th Fleet's zone of control. On deck, Air Wing 8 waited in silence. Super Hornets, Growlers, Seahawks, all armed, fueled, and watching across the region. Airwaves erupted. News feeds showed satellite images of the carrier moving through international waters. Caracas called it an act of intimidation. Within hours, Venezuela's president signed a mobilization order. Naval and air units went to high alert. Radar stations lit up along La Guera, Puerto Cabello, and Paraguaná. Fishing vessels were warned to stay clear of the area. Inside the Ford's Combat Information Center, the mood remained calm but focused. Condition 3. Normal readiness. Electronic warfare officers logged new radar sweeps from the coast Chinese-built JL-10B signatures. Nothing new, nothing unexpected. What changed was the tone. Venezuelan Navy radio transmitted a message with no names, no coordinates. Any foreign vessel approaching our sovereign limits will be intercepted. Everyone aboard the Ford knew exactly who it was for. By nightfall, U.S. intercepts picked up coastal chatter, fast boat crews standing by for launch. In the Combat Direction Center, a steady voice reminded the watchstanders, "We're in international waters. Stay professional. Stay predictable." Outside, the Caribbean looked peaceful. Black water, no moon. 500 miles south, in dark radar rooms at Puerto Cabello, a young operator leaned closer to his screen. A new contact appeared. Too big, too slow, too deliberate. The first entry in a chain of mistakes about to begin. What started as a warning would within hours become a direct challenge to the most powerful warship on Earth. November 12th, 2025. Venezuelan northern coast. The radar operators at Puerto Cabello had been awake for hours. Coffee cups lined the consoles. The air smelled of dust and electronics. Then it happened. A new echo appeared on the scope, 90 nautical miles north of Laguna. The track looked big, steady, deliberate. To them, it was an American destroyer, probably a Burke-class ship running solo, attempting a target for a warning intercept. Within 15 minutes, the order was signed. 6 fast patrol boats rolled out from the docks, diesel engines spitting white smoke into the night air. Each carried a crew of 8 armed with 12.7mm heavy machine guns and short-range rocket pods. Light, fast, unpredictable, the naval equivalent of street fighters. Under radio silence, they pushed north at 35 knots, sometimes touching 40. Hulls slammed through the swells. Navigation lights off. The lead boat's commander, a Coast Guard officer promoted just last year, scanned the radar repeater mounted beside him. One bright dot, range decreasing. Course north, northwest. The problem, the information they were using was 30 minutes old. The destroyer they thought they were closing in on wasn't a lone ship. It was the Gerald R. Ford herself, surrounded by layers of defense. Up at 90 degrees relative, the carrier's radar horizon masked its escorts. To a coastal system running outdated Chinese firmware, the reflections merged into one echo, one contact, one mistake. The patrol boats crossed the outer edge of Venezuelan territorial waters. The coastline disappeared behind them. Now, only the compass, the engine noise, and the occasional flash of lightning on the horizon remained. The commander checked his scope again. Still one contact, still closing. He radios a short-coded burst to base. Visual intercept expected within 30 minutes. In the Combat Direction Center aboard the Ford, those same minutes ticked down. Multiple surface returns appeared on their screens, small, fast, erratic. 6 dots racing toward them from the south. Their radar showed one echo. In reality, they were about to meet a fleet. Aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford, the Combat Information Center hummed with quiet precision. Blue glow from screens, voices low, clipped, professional. Then a call from the radar console broke the calm. Surface contacts detected. Bearing 158, range 36 nautical miles, speed increasing. 4 fast-moving returns, then 6. Their radar signatures were small but erratic, the kind that makes a radar operator sit up a little straighter. The system labeled the contacts automatically. Skunk Alpha 1 through 6. The Ford was in Condition 3, standard patrol readiness. Within seconds, the watch officer called Condition 1. The room shifted. More crew members arrived. Weapon stations were manned. The tension didn't show on their faces, but it was palpable in the air. Electronic warfare picked up bursts of VHF static from the south. Too irregular to decode, likely low-power tactical radios. Launch both Romeos, the captain ordered. 2 MH-60 Seahawks lifted off within minutes, rotors cutting through the dark. Their mission, visual identification of the incoming contacts. In the CIC, a calm female voice reached through the open channel. Unidentified surface vessels. This is a United States Navy warship operating in international waters. You are approaching a restricted zone. Identify yourself and alter course immediately. No reply. Just the steady approach of 6 radar blips, now within 20 miles. CRAM and CWIS batteries switched to standby. Cameras locked on. Every console hummed with data. In the Northern Caribbean, the first to spot them was the Seahawk crew. 6 small wakes cut across the black surface, tight formation, bow waves glowing faint under moonlight. Visual on movers, range 12 nautical miles, bearing 185. Back aboard the Ford, the CIC confirmed the contacts were moving too fast for commercial traffic, too coordinated for fishing boats. Weapons control marked them as probable military patrol craft. Then, over an open frequency, a burst of static and a male voice in accented English. Unidentified vessels, you are entering Bolivarian waters. Alter course immediately. The carrier group said nothing. Radio silence held. Formation stayed tight. The destroyers Hudner and Ramage slid into defensive positions, flanking the Ford like bodyguards. The cruiser Normandy shifted aft, creating a full 360-degree coverage bubble. Then one of the Venezuelan boats lit up its fire control radar. The signal spiked instantly on the EW board, short-range X-band, high pulse rate. A lock, not a test, aimed straight at the USS Thomas Hudner. CIC, we're being painted, the EW officer reported. The captain's voice stayed calm. Track, but do not engage. The Seahawk hovering 5 miles out confirmed what the radar already showed. The Venezuelan boat's targeting sensor was active, aimed directly at the destroyer. Within seconds, automatic defense systems reacted. CWIS turrets rotated toward the bearing. Infrared cameras zoomed in. Target data streamed across every screen in CIC. And then, silence. No weapons fired. No alarms. Just 6 boats, weapons uncovered, holding position 8,000 yards off the Ford's bow. The destroyer's captain held fire. The Venezuelans held their pride. The sea was still. In the Caribbean Sea, north of La Guerra, everything froze for a few seconds. 6 Venezuelan patrol boats idled on the black water, facing an entire U.S. carrier strike group, the kind of moment where a single radio call could shape the next decade of foreign policy. Then one boat moved, its engines flared white. Speed jumped to 40, 45 knots. The bow lifted, wakes exploding behind it. It wasn't turning away, it was charging. Contact Alpha 3. Accelerating, bearing 185. Closing fast. Every voice inside the forward CIC sharpened, but stayed calm. On the bridge of the Thomas Hudner, the officer of the deck watched the range counter spin down. 3 nautical miles, 2, 1.5. Green signal flares streaked skyward from the destroyer, an international command to turn away. No response. Target ignoring signals. Range 1,000 yards. Sea Whiz mounts locked in. Every sailor knew what that meant. One more wrong move, and the entire sky would light up. On the Venezuelan boat, the commander shouted over the roar of engines. He could see the destroyer's silhouette now, a black wall of steel. His radar showed multiple returns, stacked and distorted by jamming. The data was garbage, but it was too late to check. Distance closing, 900 yards. A voice in the CIC reported, 850, 800. Then, just as suddenly, the engines throttled back. The boat's bow dropped. It cut hard to port, spray flying across the deck. In seconds, the formation collapsed. One turned, then another. The rest followed, retreating toward Venezuelan waters in erratic, overlapping wakes. No missiles fired, no shots exchanged. But the radar plots told the whole story, a confrontation that came within seconds of turning catastrophic. In the Combat Direction Center, the captain exhaled quietly. Maintain course and speed. Don't pursue. On screen, the last of the fast movers faded south into the static. 1 second too early. War. 1 second later. Humiliation. Tonight, silence won. By sunrise, the Gerald R. Ford strike group was already 60 miles north of the encounter point, maintaining steady course and speed, 20 knots heading northwest. On the bridge, the morning watch rotated in. For most of the crew, it was just another day at sea. But outside the ship, the story was already spiraling. In Caracas, state television interrupted regular programming. Low-resolution video from a patrol boat camera showed faint silhouettes of warships on the horizon. Edited, cropped, captioned, U.S. fleet retreats. Within minutes, the footage spread across regional networks and social media. At the Pentagon, the response was measured. A press release included satellite imagery, AIS data, and GPS timestamps showing the Ford group more than 80 nautical miles from Venezuelan waters. The message was clear. The U.S. Navy did not cross any territorial line. Perception, however, is everything. Diplomats from both nations began discreet communications through Swiss channels to avoid public escalation. 4th Fleet Command in Mayport quietly raised its regional readiness level, while the State Department urged restraint on all sides. Meanwhile, aboard the Ford, sailors returned to routine, flight operations, maintenance, watch rotations. The encounter was logged as an incident of interest. No shots fired, no official complaints, just another quiet entry on a long list of near misses. Still, no one aboard mistook quiet for peace. Inside the CIC, one officer noted a Venezuelan radar sweep probing the carrier again. Officially, the mission continued. Unofficially, everyone knew it had changed. The Caribbean looked calm, but beneath the surface, tensions ran deep. From a distance, it looked like nothing had happened. No missiles launched, no casualties, no screaming headlines. Crisis? Perhaps, but inside the Pentagon, the encounter was dissected frame by frame. What happened off the coast of Venezuela wasn't luck, it was discipline. For Venezuela, mistakes began long before the first engine started. Their coastal radar systems, built around outdated Chinese JL-10B units, were never designed for complex maritime environments. They mistook radar reflections from multiple ships as a single large contact, a basic but critical error. Acting on that misread data, they sent small, lightly armed patrol boats toward what they thought was a lone destroyer. In reality, they were charging at an entire carrier strike group, one with enough layered defense to neutralize any surface threat within minutes. The Ford crew, by contrast, followed protocol to the letter: detection, verification, visual confirmation. No assumptions, no improvisation. When fire control radar from one of the Venezuelan boats locked onto the Hudner, every defensive system activated within seconds. EBW, SEZ, the whole lot. Yet the captain never flinched. He kept the weapons tight. No one fires unless fired upon. That a restraint matters more than any missile system aboard the ship. In naval operations, control is everything. Every sailor in that combat information center knew that one wrong decision could start a war, one their adversary couldn't survive. By holding fire, the Ford group sent a louder message than any missile ever could. They demonstrated real power, confidence under pressure. In the age of satellites and global tracking, truth doesn't stay hidden for long. Every radar pulse, every AIS signal, every second of data told the same story. The Ford group never entered Venezuelan waters. It was a near miss, born of miscalculation, and a reminder of a truth the sea never forgets. In naval warfare, discipline is stronger than firepower. Sometimes the biggest mistake is thinking you can challenge both. So, what do you think? Did the US Navy handle this the right way? Calm, calculated, professional? Or should Washington take a tougher stance with Venezuela's growing confidence at sea? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single one of them. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like and subscribe, and turn that little bell gray. It really helps keep this channel sailing, and if you want to go a step further and support the channel directly, join the fleet. You'll get loyalty badges, priority replies, and help bring more true maritime stories to the surface. Just head over to our channel page